Normally, when you speed things up, they get higher pitched.
That does happen.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true.
science, Noah.
Magnets, how do they
Science,
work?
bitch.
Noah's too young to know how tapes work, so.
It's true. I bet you don't even know what a DVD is.
Or who Journey is.
Never
That's what I
listened to
got
a-
IRL.
A vinyl record.
Somebody
accused you of not
told you
knowing
that
who
you wouldn't
Journey
know
is?
Journey.
Yeah, and when I worked at the record store, this man is like, I'm looking for a band you might not have heard of because you're so young.
What?
They're called Journey, and that was one time I was so much more rude when I worked at the Exchange. I fully broke customer service. I was like, maybe if I've been living under a rock.
Yeah. What the hell? Why would you think
Sometimes
you
I
would
just
know
lost my
Journey?
patience with old men at the record store.
Yeah, that's valid.
It's just like
Don't
I'd
Stop
just
Believing
be
was
"What
like
do you
literally
mean?"
everywhere for the last 30 years. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never turned on the radio, the TV, or walked outside before, so I've never heard of Journey.
Yeah.
That's.
I stopped believing.
But I don't know the significance of that phrase because, as previously mentioned, never heard of Journey.
Captain America, I understood that reference, except he says I do not understood that reference.
His own reference.
But you know, a band I am aware of.
What,
Foo
what
Fighters.
band?
Claudio Simonetti's Goblin. That's who.
Yeah.
Who's
Here
that?
at Casual Obsession, we're here to gab-a-ghoul. It's
You
Jeff.
can't call him a ghoul just
That's it.
because he's 72.
To gab a goblin, you might
He
say.
doesn't look or act like he's 72.
He kind of acts like he's 72, just a little bit.
And I
He's-
think
he-
that's
he-
great for him.
Yeah. So Jeff and Noah and I, our town does this
It's a yearly horror fest.
yearly horror fest, and last year we went to see Nosferatu with a live organ, which
Which
was
one?
really fun.
The original
The-
silent one.
The
No, the organ was
intestines-
pretty loud, actually.
Was it a
And
heart
house.
or like a liver?
Intestines, Emma. We're on two different levels
The
here.
blowhole.
Anyway. But this year, that was last year. This year,
No blowhole this year.
No
no
Blowhole.
blowhole this year. Just a lot of synth. We went to see Goblin, one
Yeah.
of the current incarnations of Goblin, the band that did the score for Suspiria and Phenomena, which you may remember
And-
from us watching them.
And almost every other Dario Argento movie, basically.
Yes. Yeah, it was really fun. They played songs from all the hits, plus Halloween and The Exorcist, which was
Yeah.
really
yeah,
fun.
their version of
Oh,
the
that's
Halloween theme
cool.
was really fun, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved
Just
it.
all,
was a
all
bop.
goblined up.
And it's on Spotify.
Ooh.
Pretty excited
Yeah,
about
if you
it,
like
actually.
synth,
Yeah.
Claudio Simonetti's Goblin, they're still making music.
It's fun stuff.
They're still releasing some stuff.
Yeah, he was talking
Now,
about a
in
new
fairness,
album that they were.
he name dropped a new album.
Yeah,
That album came out in 2019.
He's so
it's
mean.
new. Dude.
That's literally me.
Dude's
New
been doing this
compared
for
to the
50
70s.
years. This
Well,
is new.
it's funny because their Suspiria reimagining came out last year, but that's not original material, so it doesn't count.
Well, yeah, that's
So
old material.
the one original album that's there is just like, this is our new album from 2019, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
The
got a
devil
problem?
is back.
The devil is back. I love that as a title.
Yeah. It was so fun.
It was a really fun show.
You know, and fair warning though, you almost see Dong in it. There are two 3D rendered men. Where one of them, I was so excited, right? If there was going to be a horrifically 3D modeled dick on one of those ugly 3D models.
Sorry, hold on. Just
Because-
for context for anyone listening, they had a video screen up.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm
showing
sorry.
videos on
There was a
the
video
entire
screen
way
up,
through the set
and-
the whole time. Every
Yeah,
song
we're
had a
watching people
video.
get murdered. We're watching all kinds of stuff, and I'm like,
There
oh
were a
my
lot
god,
of boobs as
I
well.
can't believe
Lots
we,
of boobs.
We were so close to being able to review it, saying, and there was Dong, but there
It was
so close.
Honestly,
so close.
when they were playing the song from Tenebrae, I thought there was going to be more boobs, but there wasn't. There could have been astronomically more boob in the Tenebrae video.
Yeah. Yeah. There was
tasteful of them, frankly.
Very, yeah. They picked the coolest looking kill.
the crowd was small. When
That
we
was
went to Nosferatu,
unfortunate.
the
It was
theater was
disappointing.
packed. It was sad, and as a result, the energy was as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
With
Also, it was a 9 p.m. beginning to the concert,
that.
and I feel like that hurt it.
old.
A bit.
But at one point, he's like, "Here, sing along with this," and the energy was incredibly low, and he just kind of laughed, and he was like, "Okay, no, never mind."
Yeah. That was for
Yeah,
Suspiria.
you did your
too.
best.
Yeah, it was really funny. He's like, "I get that you guys know how it goes."
That's
Stop it.
hilarious. Oh my god.
But yeah, that was a really good time, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that we went.
The band was
That's
very clearly
awesome.
having a fun time with the material.
Yeah, and with each other, they seem to get
Yeah.
along really well.
Always good to see.
What
Can I
else?
pitch
Oh, yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Go.
For context, audience, I have not brought this up to anybody on the podcast because I just thought about it. So you talking about this Halloween related event that you went to, or horror Halloween related event you went to, made me think like, oh dang, what can me and Piper do in our area that is horror Halloween themed? And then I was like, oh, the other day as we were Ubering home, we saw a sign for a haunted house. And
Ooh.
I propose before our next episode, we all each go to a haunted house. And I mean, you three can go together.
That's
if
right,
you
we
want,
can.
or you can go separately. But obviously, me and Piper will go do our thing. But we can all go, and then we can talk about our haunted house experiences next
Noah
time.
was
We have one
literally
in
just
town.
talking about wanting to do this yesterday.
Really? I think it'd be so fun.
Yeah, we have a
Emma.
haunted house in town that's been going strong for a real long time, and
Mm-hmm.
I've always heard that it's really good, but I've just never gone because I've never gone to a haunted house actually. Be a new
Yeah.
experience for me.
Me neither. I went to like a haunted hayride with paintball. It was pretty fun.
Paintball,
Very
wow.
different
Holy
experience.
Yeah, they had okay, let me tell you. There was the hayride, and then in the like back of the tractor they had mounted paintball guns, and you could shoot at the scare actors.
That sounds
incredible.
awesome, actually.
It was a lot of fun.
Was it like zombie themed or?
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
it was a good time.
I love
Um,
that.
I'd be down for that. I have to steel my nerves though, so
Not me. I'm built different.
I
I'm
buy
just
my
gonna shit
nerves.
myself.
I think that'd be
other,
great though.
Other ghouls.
I think so.
More
Noah and I
traditional
watched The
ghouls.
Lost Boys.
Yeah,
Oh,
we watched Lost Boys.
I've never watched
You know-
Lost Boys.
I'm happy to say, whatever you think the movie is going to be like, it's probably that.
It's about
Yeah.
Whatever
I've
you've
thought
absorbed
it-
culturally.
Honestly, I haven't absorbed too much culturally about the Lost Boys.
As it turns out, neither had I. I had no idea what this movie was about because I was like, oh, I've heard it's kind of like a little bit gay and there's like vampires and it's California. Okay, firstly, the gay is not subtext. It's not like overt, but it's way more overt than you would expect it to be when people say there's some gay subtext in this film.
good.
I love that. That's a big plus.
It's super
It's
corny, but not in a goofy way, and then it is.
it's corny in such a sincere way. It's like we're doing leather-clad motorcycle vampires, and we're
Mhm.
doing it. And it's like,
Good.
okay, good. When they say
Good.
like all of the energy you would expect from a movie about vampires in the 80s titled Lost Boys, all of the kind of energy and whimsy and kind of adventure of that kind of concept of like kind of how reckless like teen boys would be if they were immortal. It's
Yeah.
really fun. It's just it's a really kind of it is a classic for a reason. So it was a lot of fun to watch.
There's an original song in it that plays every now and then that just explains to you that vampires can't die.
That's so good.
I love when songs.
Wait a minute.
I love when movies have a song in it that just explains something about the people in the movie.
Yeah, that's great.
I didn't know. Okay, confession time. So this is a problem of mine. When a song from a movie gets really big, I often don't know that it's from the movie.
Oh, sure.
like the Scott Pilgrim song, the Metric did.
Mhm.
But Cry Little Sister, I didn't know that was from Lost Boys. I was like, Cry Little Sister,
Wait, is that
which is in Lost Boys.
was that not made for Lost Boys?
It is. It's the theme.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, theme from the Lost Boys. Yeah, the sung lines basically just give you like a real quick rundown of this is what vampires are like.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Also, it shares an actor with the movie we're watching tonight. The actor that plays Tommy in Friday, the Final Chapter. Also, sorry, I'm reading. Noah pulled up the Genius for Cry Little Sister, and now I'm reading some of it.
Yeah, I just pulled it up to remember the lines are "Thou shalt not fall, thou shalt not die, thou shalt not fear," and then "Thou shalt not kill," which that's not true.
Oh.
Anyway, the actor who plays Tommy Jarvis in Friday 4 also plays a character named Edgar Frog, who is he has a brother named Alan Frog, so they're Edgar and Alan Frog,
Incredible.
like Edgar Allan
Oh
Poe.
my God.
Anyway, and
Edgar Allan Frog.
and they're just these two teen boys who lurk at a comic shop on the boardwalk to warn people about the vampires.
to
in
hand them a
town.
comic book titled "Vampires Are Real" and "How to Kill a Vampire."
So good.
I don't like horror comics. You'll like this one.
Yeah.
Edgar and
Yeah.
Alan hand you a comic book that says the seas are lousy with Draculas. Anyway, that was a good one. Jeff, you
Nice.
had one to Gab, didn't you?
I do. I watched Reanimator because in the last episode, Noah was like making fun of me for not having seen Reanimator.
Frank, hey, I mean, now that you've seen it, I was right to, right?
Honestly, I didn't love it.
Oh.
I like it, right? I liked it, but I feel like I actually kind of just I liked From Beyond better.
Well, I've never seen From Beyond.
I don't know,
so-
like see, like in terms of like as a cringe Lovecraft fan, right? I love Herbert West Reanimator as a short story. One of the things that I
Mhm.
really love about it though is that our boy Herb gets his start while he's fighting in World War I. And to remove that from his character, I feel like kind of removes one of the things that I thought was cool about him. Not that it like spoils the whole story or anything.
Yeah.
I think with the alterations that they made to bring it into what was at the time a modern setting was like really neat, and I thought what they did with it was cool and such, but like just as a movie to watch, I didn't love it the way that I was hoping to, you know?
That's fair.
That said, net positive review from me though. Wouldn't hesitate
I was
to
gonna
watch
say you
it
can't
again,
tell
I
me
don't
that you
think.
didn't love his wonderful
Yeah.
his wonderful relationship with his roommate, where he's just like, "Oh, what did you want me to say?"
He's a perfect asshole, really. They're portraying the character really well, I think. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, your cat's dead. Don't know how to tell you. Anyway, I'll be back later.
I was gonna bring it back. I don't. What are you mad about?
I love it because it really is if Victor Frankenstein had a one friend, one
Yeah.
singular friend.
Well, and I love how like they don't even really become friends. They live in the
Nope.
place together, but like they're not friends.
What if Victor Frankenstein had a roommate
Just a roommate. That's all it is.
Who
yeah.
hated him?
who hated him?
Yeah.
The school stuck me with this weirdo, and he kills people in his basement. I'm very unhappy.
And he's like a little bit annoyed by it as well. It's a fun character dynamic, you know, the mad scientist and the regular guy.
hmm
I love a mad scientist and regular guy dynamic.
Yeah. It's just fun
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. I
I'm glad you
read
found
a
this out.
horror novel.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, it's not a novel, it's a novella.
oh,
Ooh,
Yeah.
easier to read.
even
It's
quicker.
called Nothing But Blackened Teeth.
Mhm.
It's like something that I've seen thrown around a lot and like recommended a bunch.
Yeah.
And so I picked it up and read it in one night because it's like 125 pages. It's very short.
Oh, that's
But-
short.
If you're in our Discord server, you read my opinions.
That's right.
And I'll just read my opinions again on this podcast and explore them a little bit more. So I feel like I'm not the right person to judge it because it's chock full of Japanese cultural references that I just didn't understand or get. but I didn't love it narratively. None of the characters are Japanese, but they go to this haunted manor in Japan because they like to ghost hunt for fun sometimes, and 2 of them wanted to get married at a haunted location, and then shit goes down. Even though none of the characters are Japanese, the book is full of cultural references that aren't explained narratively at all, even though it would make sense narratively to have something or someone explain these things because the characters shouldn't be super aware of what they are either. And there's a lot of sequences where certain small, largely unimportant things are given paragraphs of description, then huge things that happen are given like 1 sentence of description, and then aren't really acknowledged by the characters in the scene at all, even though it's been established they're seeing these things. Another thing is that the author uses really artsy and not straightforward language to describe things pretty often, and it makes it really hard to follow what's actually happening in a scene.
Especially for such a short book, that can be a little
especially
cumbersome
for
sometimes.
such a short book, yeah. And all of the characters have like a lot of drama towards each other and a lot of history and like secrets and things, and you're expecting all of these things to kind of like blow up into like a larger thing as the book goes on, and none of it really ever does. And it's just like, I've spent a good portion of today looking at people discussing the book, and on TikTok I searched the name of the book, and like the first like 8 videos were all negative critiques on it.
Ooh.
And then I found like
Damn.
one that was like, I really liked this, and people in the comments were like, I liked it, but like these parts were weird, or like I just didn't get what they were going for here. And the person's like, yeah, I totally understand. It's weird. And I'm like, yeah, I just think it could have been done a lot better. And it could have been structured a bit better. But it's short, so if you want something quick to read, go for it, by all means.
At least if you hate
my
it, it doesn't
toxic
last
trait-
long.
Yeah.
My toxic trait is that sometimes I read bad Goodreads reviews for books that I never intend on reading.
I need somebody to read this so that I can complain with them and we can talk about it.
Well,
Because I
if it's
feel like
short-
I'm just like not getting some stuff. Because some of my
I'll
critiques,
give it a look.
some of my critiques, I
because-
haven't seen anybody else really bring up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
I did read back when we picked Revelator for
Yeah.
our first book review. This one had been on the list of books to maybe pick. And I remember I went through and took a peek at a couple of the ones that interested me. I took a peek on Goodreads at their ratings. And this I pretty consistently with this one, and then I think there's one called Baby Teeth that was also on there. That both of those had pretty consistently negative reviews. Baby Teeth was, there's no story here and it's just weird. And then for Nothing But Black and Teeth, it was a lot of this was confusing, nothing was really explained, kind of
Yeah.
vibes. And I did also see a couple reviews that this is primarily why I didn't suggest that we read it, but why I was interested to hear your take was a lot of people mentioned the fact that like it's set in Japan and there's Japanese folklore, but none of the characters are Japanese, which is like not a problem because when you have like foreigners stumbling into cultural practices, that's a great setup for horror and for critiquing cultural appropriation and ignorance.
Mhm.
But a lot of people said they felt like it wasn't done well because that didn't seem to be the theme of the story. And
Yeah.
nothing seemed to be super well explained.
Yeah. There's one white character, rich white character, where it is explored like a little bit. It's kind of like mentally talked about in the narrator's head of how like it's weird that he's doing all of this stuff. And it doesn't really specify what ethnicity everybody else is. Except one person, they say like they're half Japanese, but they're not really, they don't know the language or really anything. But you just know they're not white. But all of them are taking part in this appropriation. And it's just
Yeah.
like, It's not
It's-
really discussed at all.
Right, because that could be a really interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
So, but I'll probably give it a read because now that I'm done with my current book, I could use sort of a breather before I jump into the next big Brandon Sanderson book on my list.
Yeah. And one quick complaint. This happens further in the story, but it's like joked about of being like a horror movie trope. And so I don't feel like it's like a spoiler to talk about it, but they're like, "Oh, how do we deal with these ghost things?" And they're like, "Oh, there's a library. There has to be a book talking about like how to defeat the ghosts." And
Yeah.
none of them read Japanese or know the language. And they're like, "Okay, let's go check the library." And then they find a book and it tells them how to beat the ghosts. And I'm like, how? You don't know the language. How do you know what the book is
what?
talking about? It's great.
God.
Wonderful. Love it.
That would annoy. Yeah, that would annoy me too.
Yeah.
It's because that's
That's a problem.
I think that's kind of telling. Yeah.
It's like, it's a Friday the 13th movie, so the plot synopsis is simultaneously really easy and also the most difficult of all, because how do you remember all the events of a Friday movie in order? That's just
So true.
it's an impossible
So true.
task. It's just a jumble of bullshit and kills.
Right? You remember the end.
Yeah.
You watch the movie until a corpse gets thrown in through a window. Anyways, welcome back to the Casual Obsession Horror Movie Podcast, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. I'm your host, Jeff, and today we are talking about the last Friday the 13th movie, the fourth one, obviously. They never made any others after this one. That's why it's called The Final Chapter, R.I.P.
So true.
Joining
Yeah.
me in this very sad
So
episode is my co-hosts, Noah,
Sad.
Nina,
Sad.
and Emma.
Emma, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I don't think we can hear you.
Oh, let me try again.
There we go. Came through that time.
Just can't quite get it all the way out.
Yeah.
In terms of non-spoiler plot synopsis, it's a Friday the 13th movie. You've heard 3 of these already, right? I mean, like, it is really just the same movie again, but a little bit better this time, debatably. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just Jason's out killing again, more or less. So Noah, how's the critical reception looking?
Well, IMDb's putting this at a 6 out of 10.
Really?
Rotten Tomatoes, you might agree with this better. Rotten Tomatoes has this shit canned at 24%.
God,
Okay.
24. Oh,
Metacritic with a 33%.
yeah.
And Letterboxd was with the 3.1 out of 5.
Hey, okay, that's back up.
Now,
Yeah.
I have a couple. I didn't watch the video because this was back when Siskel and Ebert were Siskel and Ebert, and
right.
They talked about this stuff live on TV.
Right.
Ooh.
And I didn't watch it. However,
I have heard
we
some
all
things.
know Ebert hated all the Friday the 13th
He hated
movies.
slashers just in general. He shit canned
Just
them
like
as
me,
a
for
habit.
real.
But this one in particular, maybe I can find it real quick. Because I did find
Yeah,
a
he-
quote from him where he called
He
it a...
despised these.
Oh, here it is. He called this one, quote, an immoral and reprehensible piece of trash.
Mhm. Which is wild considering this is the best one so
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a Twitter Brandon for this
But
one.
hey.
Let's go.
Let me drop the Twitter Brandon, Nina. This is my bit. Bringing Twitter Brandon into my podcast and out of our personal life was my moment.
I disagree with him on this one.
Hi, Twitter Brandon. I know you listen to these.
I hope you do.
Oh, boy. Enemy of the podcast.
Watched November 2nd, 2020.
Okay.
3.5 out of 5. The first one in the series that's actually great. Until this, they ranged from terrible to fine. It's the first time in the franchise that it feels like an actual filmmaker is behind the camera. Once again, 3.5 out of 5.
So glad they finally
I'm-
fired that Walmart director they had before. Like,
I'm in your
What?
walls, Twitter Brandon.
I went through to check his ratings of the rest of these. Because over the last 3 years, he has finished most of the franchise now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He considers 4 and 6 to be the peak of the Fridays.
Common opinion.
He loved 5.
Oh, he's wrong. He's just wrong about that.
Thought X was mid, and thought Goes to Hell had a lot more promise than it was allowed to explore.
Well, both of those are
Interesting.
generally fine opinions, I suppose. Why is he like 5? I remember that being like the worst one.
It's the one that was filmed by the porn director, right?
Maybe.
It's the Sleazy Friday in my memory, but I don't know
Okay,
if that's
I'm
true.
really
It's
looking
the
forward
I'm
to
sorry.
next
sleazy
year.
one. Like, did you watch this movie?
So, I'm gonna just jump into giving my review.
Well, hold
here,
on,
right?
hold on.
But
Nina was talking about disagreeing with Twitter Brandon, and I think that's a discussion
yeah.
that belongs in the critical reception segment.
especially about Twitter Brandon. in
Yeah,
the
if
Twitter
we're
Brandon
roasting
segment.
Brandon, then we're doing it in the Brandon section. This is the time.
So
Okay.
true.
I
Sorry,
just
Christina
Twitter
disagree
thought
with
this
him.
was a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, totally. I think that this one doesn't feel any more like an actual filmmaker is behind the camera than the first 3 did.
No, not really, no.
Like this guy loves so this is actually a great time to bring up something that's the first note on Noah's notes, which
Oh.
is that he would like us all to remember that this movie came out 5 years after Alien.
Yes.
Mm.
So, with that in mind, this movie does not feel intentional in any way that Brandon's little review would make it sound.
Mm-mm.
A
No.
lot of it's the same meandering, like, bullshit that it always
Majorly.
is. A lot of the kills are kind of staged the same way. Like cinematography doesn't feel that much more special.
Yeah. Well, like I
Um,
just said, it's the same movie again.
yeah.
Like, if you
Yeah.
think it's better or worse, then like, okay, sure. But like, it is just the same movie again.
It's kind of like with James Bond, watching all the James Bond movies,
Yeah.
where at some point the language of movies that we talk about here on this podcast when we watch old movies, it just kind of naturally evolved to be better. And I think crediting any of that natural just evolution of movies getting better as time goes on to something specific about this movie is not true.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion on Twitter Brandon. I think he's wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's
Valid.
Anyway, I'm here to issue an official statement, right?
fair. Oh.
I have adjusted my ratings of the past. Firstly, I don't know why I gave Friday Part 1 a 9. The movie sucks.
9-star
It's
Noah
objectively not
you
great.
said? Oh my
9-star
god.
Noah.
It's objectively just not great, right? It's hard to watch. It's the start of the franchise, but it doesn't have most of the elements that everyone loves and remembers the franchise for.
We're growing and
Corpses
maturing.
getting
We're
thrown
growing and
into
maturing as
windows.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's favorite. Jason in the hockey mask, corpses in windows,
It
and
did have that, but
other stuff. I actually went through and bumped down my reviews of the other ones because I enjoyed this more than 1 and 2 and
Fair.
about equally with last year.
Oh.
But then I rated this one a 5 out of 10 and I'm like, what are the other ones? Out of curiosity. Oh my god. So I still like them, right?
Yeah.
You
but-
better. We have a giant fucking poster on the wall about him.
Well, okay, here's the thing, right? I love Jason. Jason
That's the thing, right?
is great. However, Friday the 13th Part 2, 3, and 4 could be cut down into about a 2-hour mega movie, maybe not even 2 hours. And you wouldn't lose much.
I would hate that.
So you said a 5
You
out
might
of 10.
like it more if it was 3 90-minute movies.
I'll
Rick.
say, yeah, watching the clips.
You're cutting 2/3 of the movie out.
Watching the clips of Suspiria and Phenomena over the music last night, I was struck with nostalgia for movies that I didn't like while I was watching them because of the music and the fact that they were showing the best parts of the movies. I was like, yeah, Suspiria is great. I don't like Suspiria that much.
I do.
I was
But I did
reminded
before.
that Suspiria is a fundamental element of how I feel about horror because of the pearl-topped pins in the eyes.
It's gorgeous. It's really pretty, but to
The
me,
rest
it's
of the
like,
movie, okay, but like that specific bit.
The thing
I
about
love
It's
Suspiria
like
eye
looking
is
at an
that,
art
like,
piece.
the soundtrack and the visuals are constantly warring to be the biggest thing demanding your attention, and because of that, the story suffers. It has to. It would get in the way.
Anyway.
But
that's how I feel. I could watch a Friday movie is if you made it into a music video.
one might say that could be like the ideal way to watch Friday the 13th movies, because then it would just be a kill montage, and that's all a slasher is trying
Yeah.
to be usually.
Yeah. So my rating, we know about the slasher scale.
Of
On the
course.
slasher scale, fundamentally, I think something has changed about my slasher scale after watching Hellraiser 2021.
Two.
Is it 2021? 2. After watching Hellraiser 2022 and Malignant, my slasher scale has been skewed to the point where it's basically just my normal movie scale, because I've realized I do like slashers when they're good.
Yep.
This movie is a this movie's like a 3.
Nina's out here
Aw.
with Friday or with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 and 3 erasure, acting as if she didn't like those.
Yeah, I did like Nightmare. I do like Nightmare.
It's almost
what I
because
like
it's
about
original and new and a fresh take on the genre.
what I like about Jason is who he is in the pop cultural consciousness. I like the Jason who uses sign language in Worthy Kids videos. I like the Jason who doesn't like sex and alcohol and drugs and is just a mama's boy. Like, I like this kind of woobified version of Jason who is still a murderer, mind you. Way more than I like the actual movies. But I do think that kind of by the 4th movie, we're starting to see that cultural consciousness come through in the character itself, specifically in the opening scene in the hospital. Feels very no sex, no drugs, Jason, and throughout this whole movie, basically. And then also
The ambient horny energy brought him back to life.
yeah, exactly.
But see, here's my thought though, is while like Freddy is remembered in a very specific pop culture way as a funny, goofy quip guy who murders people, and everyone forgets the fact that he was a child murderer and that was his whole thing. Jason never really actually hits in the movies, because like Freddy hits that point really quickly. Actually,
He
hits
starts
that point.
wisecracking early on, yeah.
And you bypass all the child murderer, Freddy Krueger stuff. By the 4th one, I don't remember that being nearly the plot point it is like in the beginning,
We're
right?
gonna find out in a couple of weeks.
And then,
Yeah,
we'll
we are.
find out, in 2 weeks, find out how we feel then and if I eat my words. But my memory here is Jason actually never hits the point of where he sits in pop culture. In the
Okay.
movies, he never quite hits that
But
point.
I see the foundation of it, especially in this movie with the ending and the way they defeat him. It's very that, and then how he's the whole like Pam's head shrine thing, dressing in the sweater and whatever. Those two kind of similar moments, and the rising from the dead because he senses people are about to get it on. That's
great.
That's like, I'm seeing why in the first like 2 or 3 movies I was like hardy har, but I don't really get why this is the pop culture version of Jason we got. But by this one I'm like, okay, I can see why we've turned this character into who he is today. But yeah, 3 out of 10. I did not like this movie very much. No, okay, I'll give it a 4. 4 out of 10.
Hey.
Cause you know what? It's an 80s movie. It was watchable. I knew the characters' names. I can tell you probably all of the characters' names in this one. Cannot do that about any of the others. So
I know Teddy's name.
True.
Ted-
well, who
Teddy,
could forget?
Because
Jim,
he's
Teddy,
you want to give Teddy Bear a
Jim,
kiss.
Sarah, Sam, Doug, and Paul,
Doug.
and Trish, and Tommy, and the twins, one of whom is named Tina. I don't know if they were both named something close to Tina.
Terry is the other one.
Terry and Tina, and then Rob. I have
You're
beef with Rob.
forgetting a character.
Jason.
Jason?
Jason. Noah, also, you got interrupted and you were saying that your old rating for the movie was a 5 out of 10, and then you readjusted things.
Oh no,
but-
this is the 5 out of 10 movie. I rated this a 5 out of 10 after watching it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is a solid 5 out of 10. And I don't know how high a Friday can go, but I realized that while I love Friday Part 6, and that one's going to get bumped up just by my love for it, the other ones I do not love as much as Friday Part 6.
Yeah.
So they got adjusted accordingly to match a more truthful scale system. This is
Okay.
a 5 out of 10. I think before, when I did my initial watch through, it was a 7, maybe.
Mhm.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
I think my initial watch through of these from 2018,
Years past.
when I watched through the first 7 of them, I think it was like a 7.
Got it. Nina talking about how Jason turned into a like anti-drugs and sex and all of these things like character made me think like the Dare program from way back when should have had a shirt that was like Jason and then it was the Dare logo and then underneath the Dare logo it said you to try. So it's like dare you to try with like Jason on it.
And he's like,
I think that would have been
pointing.
great. Yeah.
I'd like to use this as a moment to plug Nina's Redbubble.
Yeah, my Redbubble. I have actually got Jason as Smokey the Bear with a sign that says no sex, no drugs, no alcohol. And then another version that says only you can prevent premarital sex.
That's so good.
I
So
gotta
those
go
are on
buy
my
those.
Redbubble. I need to redo them. They're not up to snuff, but
Oh, well, then
they're
I'm gonna
still
wait
there.
until you do
They're
that
funny.
then.
Nina did it for me back when we lived in the Corey apartment,
they're-
and then we never
Ooh.
got around to buying them.
Wow.
Unlike the
The
Candyman
Candyman poster, which I would change nothing about, I think it's perfect. I look
Yo,
at
that
it every
thing's
day, and I'm like, I'm a fucking genius.
Mhm.
It's a good design.
That one
But
was
yeah.
like that one came with the new movie, right? So it's not that old.
No, my design of the poster is from when we were still in Corey, so I think the new one had been announced, but the new one had been announced a long time
while.
before it came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we watched in this apartment is when we saw the new Candyman.
Mhm.
So that was actually purely fueled by old Candyman.
I love Tony Todd.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway,
Back to the task at hand.
What's
Emma,
your
what's
rating,
your
Emma?
rating?
Emma?
Oh wait. Okay, I call 2.
I call. Yeah,
That's
I'll
a generous
say
guess.
maybe a 2.
You think Emma's not dipping
mean,
into like
I don't think
zeros
it's as
here?
low as
Because-
VA. I don't think it's as low as VHS 1. But
Which
that was
well,
negative
that was a,
one,
that was
wasn't it?
I was gonna say it was a
Okay,
0.
so I'll say
think-
1. I'll say 1.
I think all of the other ones I gave 1.
That's why I think this is a 2 because it's objectively because of the windows better than the other ones.
And all the
At the
slow-mo.
very least, all the windows are better.
Yeah.
There is a lot of slow mo.
I posted in our chat when I started watching this movie, like, why do I constantly forget how bad these movies are or something?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. It's kind of like how when women give birth, they have a hormone that makes them forget how bad being pregnant and giving birth is.
Yeah.
It's like that, but for Friday the 13th movies.
I think that's called selective amnesia in this case because I don't think you get a good thing out of it in the end.
Yeah.
You just repress
So,
it.
So I felt that way at the beginning, and I hated the beginning. And then as we got to see the interactions of the characters we were going to be spending the movie with, I was enjoying it a bit more. And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't that bad, because this one has like a bit more of a story to it, and the characters actually feel like characters that are like kind of people and have a dynamic.
Yeah.
So I was enjoying it a little bit more. I wasn't actively hating my time. And then the ending I just hated. And by ending I mean like the last like 20 minutes.
Oof. Oh.
Really when like Jason starts actively showing up and killing everybody is when I was like, oh yeah, I hate this again.
Oh.
Oh, see, I was going to give you. I assumed you meant maybe the last 5 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, I get.
I
that.
also
I
hated
could back
that.
that,
Yeah,
but-
I also hated that.
Mm.
But I'm gonna give it like 2.5 out of 10.
Oh.
That's not me saying 2.5 just to fuck Noah's guess over. That was, I had predetermined that I was gonna give it a 2.5.
Hey, I'm still the closest by like a long
By
shot.
Price is Right rules, he still wins. So
True, yeah. Well, Price is Right rules. No, you can't go over, but you
yeah,
can
it's
go
as
under.
close as
Yeah,
you can.
true,
Whoever's closest without going over. Yeah.
Nina's over here like 2 stars and 1 penny.
But Jeff, what about you?
I mean, like, I feel like at this point, me picking a number is like pointless almost because it's a Friday the 13th movie, and that means that I'm for the most part incapable of judging it objectively because I just love my special boy. I rate it Friday out of 13.
So true, so true. Nina's dying right now, but
Fuck
wow.
I think this movie does suffer a bit from some of the stuff that it went through in production and in post-production. It's very obvious that an awful lot of shit has been cut out of it. Even by Friday the 13th standards, you know, like even some of the bullshit feels a little bit disjointed, and there's just not enough Jason in it, actually. He is absent for too much of this movie, I think, but like even so, I still really like it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's fair.
But we need a number because I don't think we've ever not given a
We've
number
never
before.
we've never
Yeah,
allowed anyone
Jeff.
to not give a number. So
You have to say a number.
my heart is telling me 10, but my brain is telling me 7 might be generous. In terms of like objective quality of the movie, come on, I know it's not great, but I love Jason. So
He's
I
your
think
special boy.
to be properly fair to the integrity of the rating system, I'm gonna give it like an 8.5.
Okay.
Which I'm
Weirdo.
once again
No.
I'm aware is too generous of a number, but once again I don't care. So
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
trigger warnings though. This movie is it's an 80s slasher. It's got some stuff in it that you might want to be warned of. There's a dog. The dog does die, and double warning: dog suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, he jumps
the
out a
fuck?
window.
So the dog dies in a way that'll make you say, "Did the dog just die?"
It's
mark?
never like
Yeah.
confirmed. We don't see a dog corpse. You watch it like spoilers. You watch
I
the dog
thought
jump
when
out a
the-
window slowly, and that's it.
And then the dog never shows
The
up
dog's
again.
just
I
gone
thought when
after
the mom reacted to something, I thought she was reacting to the dog corpse, but that
But no, she was reacting to seeing Jason moments before she was killed off screen and never mentioned again.
yeah.
Eh.
So dog yeah, that happens.
Yeah,
Question
it's-
mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I
That
can't figure out why it happens.
honestly-
even.
I thought, oh, the dog's trying to get away from Jason.
Sure.
No,
Nah, though.
no,
like-
that's not it. The dog jumps from the second story window.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Other things to warn
Other
about.
people
though.
survived that fall. So
Yeah.
anyway.
It's the movie's a little inconsistent about whether a second story window is a survivable fall, but
Movie says hard no until the last 5 minutes.
yeah. Other things to warn about though, we've got a little sexual coercion that does happen early on in the movie. Which is done by a character who, the moment he's introduced, makes a joke about doing some necrophilia. So, yeah, there's just some gross and unsavory characters. Don't worry, he dies pretty quickly after that, but not quick enough.
Yeah.
What else? There was something else, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, we got lots of nudity.
There is a lot.
Lots of
the most in the
nudity.
series up to this point.
But
Mhm.
no dong.
No dong. We've
dong.
got male ass in reasonable quantities, actually, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
no dong.
There's plenty of man ass.
You know, actually, that is one thing I will respect the Friday movies for is they don't shy away from man ass.
They don't. They really don't. You know?
They're like, people are skinny dipping and they are skinny dipping. No trees to block the man ass.
Mhm.
But I want the dong.
But we want dong, and we're not getting any.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Unlike the characters in this movie, am I right? But don't.
So true. We also got sexism in this movie. There's some sexism.
Yeah.
Once again, it's a Friday the 13th movie. I mean, come on. If there's not an incel character,
Yeah,
then what are
we-
you even doing?
God, the incel character was so bad.
There are two
That's
incel
Crispin Glover.
characters. Oh, Crispin Glover.
Like,
I
It
think
was
Ted is.
wild.
I think Ted also qualifies.
I was
as an
thinking of
incel.
Ted
yeah,
when
but
I
he's an
said it.
incel. Fair, but like the fact that he keeps calling Crispin Glover a dead fuck, and he clearly like keeps getting so worked up about
It
it. He's
really
like, I
bothers
told you
him.
not to call me that. And he's like, well, maybe don't act like a dead fuck. And he's like, I've been meaning to talk to you about that because actually, and it's like he's crying actively right now.
He
it's
seems
like,
really,
Hey
really
Ted, I've got something I
upset
want to
about
talk to you
it.
about. Stop talking to me
We're
and
gonna
being a
get
dead
into
fuck.
this in
Go
a few
flirt with the
minutes,
girls.
But I
That's
love
what I
the
want
way
to talk
Crispin
about.
Glover is so deeply emotional about literally everything that happens in the movie. Like the more dumb
Everything
it
that
is, the
happens,
more
he's about to
invested he
cry
is.
about.
Yeah,
He's like the
got
Jordan
sad
Peterson of
eyes.
Friday the
he
13th.
kind of is actually. Yeah, he's just like Ted. I think what we need to do is we need to be monsters. You know, we.
Ted taking a fat doink on that DMT. That's great, Jordan. That's great. Watch this vintage porno
But
with
I
me.
mean, you know, with all this said, I mean, is this movie like is it scary though?
No,
Oh,
No.
no, it's not.
not at all.
I feel like this is when they discovered how to do like the like sugar window trick for like broken glass. Because they overused throwing things out of a window.
I think
Overused.
I think there must have been like
I think they underused.
like a recent advancement in slow-mo cameras or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
more so that than the glass, because sugar glass has been around for like millennia at this point, I'm pretty sure, but
It's the same vibes as the 3D effects in the last one.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
it really is.
I feel like this movie could have benefited a little bit by being intended for 3D, actually.
Because of the windows and the glass.
Because of the windows in the
Yeah.
glass, you know? Like,
Yeah.
they could have had, like, shards
that
of
was
glass
scary.
falling on the camera or something like that. That could have been fun.
Yeah, that was the scariest part was
Just all
how
the-
many broken windows there were.
All the glass. You don't think dog
Yeah.
suicide is scary?
You know, I don't want to sound. I don't want to sound heartless.
It's funny.
But there's not many moments in this movie that were funnier than that moment.
Okay,
it
look,
happens, and you
'cause
can't
the dog-
figure out, like...
There's one thing in this movie that's scarier, where they find like an old porno movie and decide to play it on a projector,
that's true.
and it's just a woman dancing naked, kind of.
Yeah.
And what's
Yeah,
his
naked
name?
kind
Ted?
of is the way to say that.
Yeah. He just
Ted's gross.
spends the next like 45 minutes of the movie, which is half the movie, sitting there watching it alone, laughing his ass off.
Smoking weed.
And I'm like, why do you find this so fun? Oh, smoking weed.
yeah.
Oh, he was super
Well,
high.
But like, it was just so awkward.
Yeah, it's so
And
awkward.
That was kind of scary, I guess.
Yeah.
It's literally not that funny. Like,
It's not funny at all, actually,
No.
is the thing. Like,
No.
okay, wait. Hold on. To be fair,
okay, to be fair.
To be fair.
to be fair, thinking about like the like time gap between like when they're watching it and when it was made.
True.
I'm trying to think if I like saw like a 70s porno today, if I would think it was really funny.
You know what? That's a good way to look at it, actually. That's
If you have any 70s porno recommendations
Send it
and
to
you
Nina.
want to send it to us,
Don't send me any
Preferably with the big
Just
porn
let us
stash
know.
because that's what's going to make it
Actually-
funny.
yeah, really.
Actually do.
The mustache is important.
I am intrigued. We watched X forever ago.
We did.
And I've been thinking about it ever since. So
Nina admits to thinking about porn ever since X.
Wow.
I'm thinking about Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega. That's what I'm thinking about.
Anyway, Jeff, I heard you had a recap.
A synopsis of the rest of this movie. All right, so this movie picks up immediately where number 3 leaves off. This is the last in the Friday series to do that, actually. And it's important to remember the second, third, and fourth movies, just this one and the previous 2, all take place over the course of like 5 days, canonically.
Not on Jason's birthday.
No longer
Sad.
on Jason's birthday, no. All right, so the night after the events of the previous film, once again, this is reading from Wikipedia. The night after the events of the previous film, police are cleaning up the grounds, and Jason Voorhees' body, believed to be dead, is taken to the morgue. There's this really funny scene in the beginning where, like, the ambulances are pulling up to, like, collect all the corpses and such. And apparently the ambulance drivers have not been informed of what the situation is because they're pulling up and talking to the cops, and the cops are directing them around. And the cop is, like, talking to the driver of this one ambulance and says, yeah, yours is over in the barn there. And the guys say, yeah, all right, what's wrong with him? And there's this, like, 2-beat pause before the cop goes, he's dead. They're all dead. And the ambulance guys are like, oh, all dead. Some emergency. So they go, they collect the corpses, they take him to the morgue. Whilst in the morgue, Jason senses that the fucking creepy morgue guy is being too horny, so he spontaneously revives, escapes from the cold storage at the hospital, and kills him with a bone saw, which was ready. And then he also kills a nurse with a scalpel. This is the scene where the sexual coercion occurs, and it's immediately afterward that they are both murdered. The following day, a group of teenagers are driving to Crystal Lake for the weekend. The group consists of Paul, his girlfriend Sam, Sarah, her boyfriend Doug, a character referred to in this
Fucking
synopsis
Doug, man.
as Awkward Jimmy, who is Crispin Glover, and Ted.
Awkward Jimmy?
I mean, like,
Awkward Jimmy?
If you're
That's
gonna-
so mean.
if you're gonna call him one
Just
thing,
call him Jimmy.
you could just call him Jimmy, but oh man. Along the way, they drive past Pam Voorhees' like gravestone, which is really funny that it's just by the side of the road.
Yeah, they just popped it on the side of the
There's
road.
not even like
No big deal.
the rest of a cemetery properly there. It's just they also drive past a hitchhiker who they make some unkind jokes about, and Jason stabs her through the neck. They are
It's kind of rude of Jason.
I mean, it's the same
Shouldn't
thing.
even do anything.
It's the same thing he does with most people. She
Kill
was
them.
just sitting there eating a banana, though, and he never kills anyone for just eating a banana up until this point. So maybe that's true, actually. Anyways, they arrive at this house that they have, like, rented for some period of time, which is next door to a house where the Jarvis family lives. What are their names? Trish, Tommy, and their mom. I don't think this synopsis makes any mention of the mom, actually. That's weird. They also
Because
have,
she's a non-character.
She's-
She doesn't even die in a fun
she's,
way.
She's barely there. Her death doesn't get a scene. It's like, I kind of understand it, but also their dog's name is Gordon. He is a golden retriever, and he's the suicide dog from later in the movie. While going for a walk the next day, the group of our teens meet twin sisters Tina and Terry, and pretty much immediately just go skinny dipping with them in the lake. Trish and Tommy happen upon the scene, and Trish is invited to a party that's going to take place that night. Afterward, their car breaks down, and Trish and Tommy get helped out by a man named Rob, who is out in the woods hunting bears? That's what he says, at least. Tommy spots pretty quickly that he couldn't possibly be hunting bears, presumably because there aren't bears in that area. It's not really elaborated on because nobody listens to Tommy. Also in this scene, Tommy, this is kind of weird. Tommy, like, tries to repair the car, which is a weird thing for a 10-year-old boy to try and do. In an earlier version of the script, Tommy was supposed to be some sort of an inventor, and the way that they win at the end of the movie was supposed to be that he makes... He was supposed to build some sort of, like, microwave gun or some bullshit like that, and use that to kill Jason. But then they decided that
Interesting.
wouldn't play well enough, that wasn't a good direction for the movie to take. So instead, they altered the character so he's very into things like horror movies and practical effects, and he's always making these puppets and masks and such. And between that and the fact that his name is Tommy, it's a generally accepted thing that it's intended to be a reference to Tom Savini, who is back to do the effects on this for the first time since the first movie in the series.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tommy boy.
Kid is good at making masks.
Presumably because it's
I
Tom
was
Savini
expecting
made
him
all
to
of
have
this.
a I was expecting him to have like hockey mask somewhere and Jason take it.
That would have been neat. If like Jason's hockey mask gets like destroyed or something, and then he just like finds that and puts it on. That could be neat.
Yeah.
Anyways, later that night, the teens begin their party. A jealous Sam sees Tina flirting with Paul and leaves. She goes out to the lake where Jason impales her from underneath a boat. When Paul goes out to look for her, he gets harpooned in the groin.
God, I love that.
Jason, like, he stabs him in the dick with it, and then he, like, hoists him as well. Terry tries to leave the party early, but Jason stabs her also with a spear before she can even get onto her bicycle. He pins her to the wall on the outside of the house. Mrs. Jarvis arrives home and discovers that the power is out because Jason literally just grabbed the box and pulled it off the wall with his hands because he's on some brute force shit. He's the Jasonator now because it's the fourth movie. While searching for her children and her dog, she gets killed off screen. There is a deleted scene from the end of the movie where they happen across her body, but it gets cut because of some bullshit that I'll explain after the synopsis. Trish and Tommy arrive home, realizing that upon realizing that their mother is missing, Trish goes back out to search for her, and she finds Rob's campsite. Rob is the brother of the character Sandra from the second movie. I don't know if anybody even would remember her at this point because the characters in these movies are always just so forgettable. But it is revealed that, oh my God, he's actually hunting Jason. Oh, he's after like revenge for his sister, and he explains how Jason's body has like disappeared from the morgue and stuff, and that he's here for revenge. So, being worried about Tommy's safety home alone now, Trish and Rob both return to the house. Meanwhile, back at the party, some dancing occurs at one point, and tell you what, I don't know how it is that Jimmy manages to get laid after dancing like that, but he does. And after this happens...
Yeah, no, he's doing.
Yeah, apparently, fun fact, that literally is just the actual way that Crispin Glover danced. Like, they asked him to dance.
Oh, no.
I don't know if the instruction he was given was dance awkwardly or anything like that. Or if he was just told, we're going to put some music on and you need to dance. But, like, the way he dances is so ridiculous and so... I don't even know how to describe it. But according to Crispin Glover, that is just the way that he actually danced in clubs at the time. Yeah. In any case, he gets to go upstairs and has sex with Tina, and afterward he goes downstairs allegedly to get a bottle of wine, but it kind of seems like it's mostly just to brag to Ted that he got laid. And while he's in the kitchen shouting to Ted about where the corkscrew is, Jason takes the corkscrew and stabs his hand, pinning it to the counter, and then he hits him in the face with a meat cleaver. Meanwhile, Tina upstairs is wondering where he is. She looks out a window and sees that her sister's bike is still there. And then Jason bursts through the window and throws her to her death. She falls down and crashes onto a car, blows out all the windows at once. And I think this is my favorite kill, actually, because I love the, like, her falling down and hitting the roof of the car shot. It's very cool. Meanwhile, Ted, smoking weed, has been watching Stag films on an old projector the whole time. And his death is actually kind of funny because during the party, there's this, like, teddy bear just sitting on the couch, I guess. And during the party, on two different girls, he tries the same line where he holds up the teddy bear and says, "This is a teddy bear." And then, without any reasonable pause in between, he says, "Want to give Teddy Bear a kiss," as a reference to the fact that his name is Ted. He gets shut down harder the second time than the first, which is hilarious because he gets shut down hard the first time. Whilst watching these movies, since he's so high and he says he's also been drinking wine, he starts talking to the woman on the screen, and he tries the same line on her just as the tape runs out. So the movie is over the moment that he says it. And then while he's just standing there in the projector light, Jason stabs him in the back of the head with a kitchen knife. And he bleeds all over the projector screen as he falls down. Jason then goes upstairs where Doug and Sarah have been getting it on in the shower. And after Sarah gets out of the shower and goes to, I don't know, get dressed or whatever, Jason goes into the bathroom and kills Doug by punching through the glass door of the shower and crushing his head against the shower tile. Although the way that it's edited, it kind of just looks like he grabs his face really hard and that kills him.
Yeah.
Sarah finds Doug's body and screams, tries to escape, but she gets killed with an axe to the chest through a door. Once again, lots and lots of brute force coming off of Jason in this one. Meanwhile, Trish, Rob, and Gordon go next door to investigate, and they discover all these dead teens' bodies. Gordon, it says here Gordon flees. This is the part where Gordon dies. He jumps out of a window and he is never seen again. He shatters the glass on his way out. I don't know, whatever. Jason kills Rob in the basement as Trish runs away with Rob's machete in hand. She and Tommy barricade themselves inside the house, but Jason breaks in and chases them into Tommy's room. Trish lures Jason out of the house and escapes, and she does this by jumping out of a window. A second-story window. Now, this is the same height as the second-story fall that killed Tina, but Trish survives this because she lands in the mud instead of on a car. And her acting in this particular little scene is actually really good because as she gets up, she's very clearly like kind of fucked up about it. She's having a hard time with it. The way, like, all her movements are very stiff, very cautious, as though she's worried her entire body might be broken, which it might be because she just fell out of a window. But she goes back into the house. Meanwhile, Jason exits the house, and I don't know, maybe I watched this movie twice. I watched this scene specifically like 4 times, and I cannot figure out how this is supposed to have happened because we are shown her walking into the house and we are shown Jason walking out of the house, and it looks like they use the same door. So logically, it seems as though they must have walked past each other, but this is not what happened. This is a very lazily made movie in an awful lot of regards, so I'm willing to just chalk it up to being bad continuity. Basically this works as an attempt to lure Jason out of the house. She goes back into the house and discovers that Tommy has not run away, actually. So she grabs herself a weapon, sensing Jason behind her, and she swings at him. She tries to fight him off, with a machete, actually, but then she gets overpowered. Meanwhile, what Tommy has been doing upstairs is shaving his head and doing some makeup to try and look like a police sketch of child Jason from the first movie, which Rob had
so
with
bad.
him. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It is completely absurd. And this is the point where, like, I kind of don't like the direction the movie is taking, but this next kill, I think, almost makes it worth it because it's very cool. So having disguised himself to look like Jason as a child, Tommy manages to distract Jason for long enough that Trish hits him with the machete, but she only hits the mask, like, off of his face. And as she stands there looking horrified at how horrifically ugly he is, because, you know, in previous installments, we remember how Jason is the ugliest man on Earth. Tommy picks up the machete and smacks it right into the side of Jason's skull. Jason falls down on the floor with this thing stuck in his head, and it, like, splits his head open as his head like slides down the machete, and it's obviously, like, continuously cutting it further open. And it looks kind of great because, once again, that's that Tom Savini. Jason's head there is fully just like a hand puppet that Tom Savini is, like, operating himself as it's happening, and his, like, eyes are moving while it's happening, and it looks really cool. And then as they're standing over his corpse, Tommy notices that Jason's fingers are moving a little bit, so he starts hacking at his body over and over, yelling things, and Trish kind of tries to stop him but can't, and we get a white wipe transition to a hospital scene where some basic Friday the 13th movie hospital scene stuff is happening. Basically, there's a doctor saying some things, and there's a cop saying, "You better get some rest, little lady." And then Tommy comes in and they hug, and he has sort of a weird look on his face, and then we get a white wipe into the credits. And that's the
Yep.
movie.
God, that ending was terrible.
Yeah, it's
So bad.
not the best that it could be.
I just do not enjoy Tommy Jarvis and his addition to the movies.
Okay, so I feel like
Yeah.
Corey Feldman is putting in a good performance here, but we can't get away from the fact that the character is just not super well written as an addition.
He just doesn't need to be there.
He
He's just
doesn't-
not.
Well, it was part of the
fun.
intent going into it. I might as well just keep throwing trivia out here. Part of the intention of including the Jarvis family was to try and have a little bit more of an emotional core to the movie, more of something, to have the teens who are supposed to get murdered and you don't feel bad about them, and that happens. But meanwhile, you can also have a group of characters that maybe you do care about, maybe you are worried. They also kind of wanted to
Yeah.
shake up the slasher formula a little bit by having more than just a final girl. They liked the idea of having a child there for you to be afraid for as well, and to have that child be not just the one who kills Jason, but to be like one of the survivors just in general. They thought that would be a neat thing. Because an awful lot of what was going on with this movie in the making of it, the reason it's called The Final Chapter, it was intended to be the last one, because going into it, basically they were thinking, it's 1984. People aren't into slashers anymore, They're apparently the box office get of a couple of, of slashers in general at that time was like starting to dip a little bit. And it's hilarious looking back on it, because like Nightmare on Elm Street hadn't even come out yet. And they were like, oh man, slashers are over. Nobody's ever going to be interested in these things. So we might as well just wrap it up, quit while we're ahead. But then also, like, as they were making the movie, it's pretty clear that like they were still thinking like, I don't know, maybe we make another one, because in conversations about how to kill Jason at the end of the movie, Tom Savini was like throwing out ideas for different ways they could do it. And one of the ideas he suggested was a decapitation. And he was real into that. And then they were like, maybe we don't decapitate him so that we can, just in case,
Yeah.
Right, of course.
Just in case.
I liked the little kid except for the end.
Yeah.
Where he was like, I'm gonna shave my head, and
He's good up until that point, right? Like,
and then the end where like the camera just hangs on him creepily looking over his sister's shoulder in this hug. And I'm like, are they trying to do a thing of like he's gonna be the next
that
Jason?
was the
And
idea, yes.
It was just
Hold on a second.
bad. But when we first are introduced to this kid and he's wearing like the alien mask, I'm like, I like this
Yeah,
kid.
he's a fun character
Yeah,
in
that
the
was
earlier
kinda fun, yeah.
parts, right? And
Yeah.
once again,
It's just the end
legitimately,
that
his
kinda fucks
acting
him up.
for most of it is actually really good. Like, he's doing a
Do
good
you
job.
hold on?
What's up?
Do y'all think that's why Corey Halloween Ends is named Corey?
Possibly.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, maybe we'll have to wait for our next Halloween episode.
This Slashtober. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
I like the character idea. I don't love the implication. I don't love how Trish treats him at the end of the movie.
Mm.
Like the doctors are right. He acted reasonably in the realm of a 10-year-old who's been severely traumatized and acting in self-defense like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Who read those newspapers about how this guy's come back to life several times. And Trish
Yeah.
is like, "Oh my god, he's evil." Other characters I don't like. Rob. Don't like Rob. Don't
No?
care for Rob.
Think he's
No.
too cagey about the whole hunting Jason for revenge thing?
No, I don't like that he just I think Trish acts stupid around Rob. I know
Oh,
it was
yeah.
the 80s.
Yeah.
But like everything to do with their relationship is really annoying to me. I don't like how she meets this random guy in the woods and then brings him to her house, invites him to come into the house, and then tells him that they leave the door unlocked all the time.
Yeah,
And I'm
she's
like,
real stupid about
Trish,
that, yeah.
come
I
on.
I was expecting him to be more significant,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not there
but then
enough,
he just
right?
died, and then, if I'm remembering correctly, because it feels too humorous to be real.
Oh.
But does he die where like you have
He's
an external
killing
shot
him.
of the house and people running out and
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
he's killing me. Oh God, he's
Okay,
killing
so
me.
yeah, I actually didn't believe that was Jason and that Rob was dying. I thought there
Okay.
was like a prank being played
So
because
the
it was
thing
so
about
comedic.
that
So
scene
bad.
and the thing about that line, even from early test screenings, people have been laughing at that moment, right? The reason it's written that
Oh,
way
good.
is because it's based on a real thing that happened. It's based on a real murder where a woman was getting stabbed to death outside of her apartment, and the whole time she was screaming, "Somebody help, he's killing me, he's stabbing me, he's gonna kill me, someone help, he's killing me," and nobody came to help her. And the writer basically heard that story and was like, holy shit, that's so fucked up. That's immensely fucked up,
Okay.
isn't it? I'm going to put that into this movie to try and make this scene scarier and darker and more like morbid. But he just made it funny by accident.
He did.
Yeah,
because
that's
if you
only
put that,
scary in real life.
Yeah, if you put that into maybe
Especially
the kind
because
of
it's-
setting of if you put it in the setting of like Evil Dead Rise,
Sure.
like
Mhm.
An urban
That
isolation
would work
kind of
for me.
setting, right? Where it originated,
Yeah.
where it belongs. But if you put it in this, and especially I think the big problem is putting it in Rob's mouth. The guy who came out here to hunt Jason.
Yeah.
Especially
it would work really well
after
in the new
he
Scream
tells them
movies,
to
but
run
not in
away.
this.
After
Yeah.
he tells them to run away
Yeah.
and then is like, oh
Yeah.
God, somebody help me, he's
it
killing
just doesn't
me.
make sense for
Like,
him.
it makes
in that
no
moment.
sense.
Now,
Yeah,
what
no,
I think
it doesn't.
would be
It's
perfect-
really funny, though.
Jimmy should say this when he's being killed. Jimmy should have a longer kill scene, and he should be the one yelling, "Oh my God, he's killing me!" Because that's a Jimmy thing to do.
Right,
That makes
and then
more sense,
all his
yeah.
friends would be hearing him and not helping him, which is exactly the setting you needed to happen in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was just about to say the way that this works is literally only if other people hear it and ignore it. That's what makes it scary. It would have worked great in Friday Part 3 with Doofy McGee
Incel
with his
Shell.
chest of props,
Yeah.
who's just like,
Incel Shell could have
ho
done
ho
that.
ho.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember nothing about Friday.
you don't
3.
remember Incel Shell?
There was a character who was constantly scaring people and then also wearing makeup, and so he walks up with his throat cut, and they're like, "Very funny, Shelley. Leave us alone." And he dies
and he's
there
dead.
because his throat's cut. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they already did it better by having it actually work, but
Aw.
instead we have Rob. He's killing me, Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
I'm gonna explain the bullshit that I mentioned during the synopsis just real quick.
Please do.
Okay, so they made
Yeah.
this movie, and Tom Savini had all these cool kills, and they had all these boobs and whatnot. And then
Of course.
the MPAA decided, as they frequently did before the era of streaming when they kind of lost all of their power, they decided to hold the movie hostage, and they just kept like sending it back with censorship notes and shit, just being like, hey, you gotta bring this and this down by this much and blah blah. And basically what they had to do was cut an absolute shit ton of the violence, the gore out of it. For whatever reason, cutting boobs was not an important thing. They were like, we will not compromise even a single boob in this movie, but what we will do is cut kills and shit. And
The
basically,
boobs are the heart of the Friday the 13th franchise.
honestly true, actually. But so basically what they did was they said, which kills specifically do we want to not cut off of? And they decided the big one that they wanted to not have to cut was Jason's head sliding down that machete. And they were willing to cut pretty much anything else as much as they needed to, as long as they could keep as much of that as possible. And that's why the kills are so incredibly truncated every time that they happen. I really wish there was an extended cut of this floating around that had just like
It's
everything
actually
still in it, but
insane that there's not.
right,
Like, that would have been a wonderful addition to like the Blu-ray box set they put out in 2020.
yeah, it could be. It
Like-
would be the new definitive edition, like immediately, because it would be so much better.
Yeah, because they did. They're all widescreen, and you can tell that they were never meant to be widescreen, and they're all upscaled, and you can tell they were never meant to be
Of
upscaled.
course.
The least they could do is give us the murder cut, where
Yeah.
every one of these like chopped, because you know for a fact Tom Savini has the murder cut at home.
Oh yeah,
You know he does.
absolutely. Why would he not?
And they
Well,
could
so
splice it
let's
in.
go find him because allegedly we know several people who may know him.
Doesn't he live in like Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he lives in
He's a
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh
So
boy.
yeah, he's not that hard to find.
So let's go
Can't
get
be.
Tom.
Also, that's another guy. Speaking of Pittsburgh, that's another motherfucker that looks like he's from Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, that's a Pittsburgh boy right
he's
there. Yeah.
so fucking Pittsburgh.
Tom,
Cody.
if you're listening,
I love you. Please come
We
on the
love you,
podcast
Tom.
with the
Absolutely, yeah.
with the extra 20-minute murder
we
cut
do
of
love
Friday
you,
Part
Tom.
4.
and we're a local podcast, which is why you should care.
We love Pittsburgh.
Grass-
We
Pittsburgh.
love Pittsburgh here. Erie
grandma's from
is
Pittsburgh.
functionally Pittsburgh.
Yeah, my grandma's from Pittsburgh too.
My grandma-in-law is from
Was
Pittsburgh.
R.I.P.
Was.
Oh, my grandma from Pittsburgh's dead too.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy. This is what happens when Emma steps away is you just start bullshitting. Nothing is
about
happening
Pittsburgh.
here.
New podcast drinking
Let's
game.
just
We
riff on
start
Pittsburgh.
riffing on something incredibly stupid, and you think it might be just because Emma's in the bathroom. Take a shot.
It happens more often than you might
If you
think,
s-
but when you're looking for
Now
it,
that
you'll
you've
find
heard
it.
us say these words and you know to pay attention for it, you might notice it happening.
Doesn't happen every episode. Sometimes Emma's here when it happens.
That's true.
This is
That's
also
true.
true.
But it always happens when they leave.
Without fail.
I literally, it's so bad that I just don't have anything to say. To be honest,
the thing
I
that
don't
I can
actually have
think
that
of
much to
to
say
like
about this movie.
start talking about would be like trivia and stuff, and I don't want to do that without Emma here.
Yeah.
So-
Because some of the trivia
when
is
I
like,
was-
neat, and some of it's terrible. But
When I was doing my notes for this movie, right? I was, God, how far were we into it? I had 1 page of notes, 1.5 maybe,
is that all you have?
and
Holy
we're about
shit.
halfway into the movie. No, but I have 2 pages of notes. Is how many notes I
That
have.
is not much for you.
No, it's not. And I had 1 page of notes at the time of writing this note in here that's just like, I just have nothing to say about this movie. There's nothing that happens in the middle. I have nothing to say. Something like that.
Hmm.
Because the entire middle is just building up our knowledge about the teens that are going to get murdered to try and attach us to them. And
Yeah.
also Tommy Jarvis is there.
Yeah, so much of the movie is just watching the characters be in situations and interact with each other.
And unlike in Friday 3, where as we learn about the characters, we also get to watch Jason murder some people on the side.
Yeah,
Or was that Friday 2? It was
that
both.
happens in all of them, I think.
You know, we don't get as many side murders in this one, and I
Yeah.
think it's partially probably because of
Family.
the
You've
well,
got
not
an
just
extra
because of
cast
family. Thank you,
characters
Vin
to
Diesel.
Throw in rather
No,
than...
it's I think it's probably because they also had to pare down the violence for their ending shot.
Mm.
So they really didn't have any room to waste on murders.
Yeah, no room for it. Yeah, ultimately, had to squeeze in more boobs.
But-
obviously, I mean,
Of course. There's so many in this
it's
movie.
a lot. It's
Like-
it feels excessive.
And every time you think this is surely the last one,
Ted puts on.
there's
a movie.
another skinny dipping sequence. Yeah,
Multiple skinny dipping scenes.
the vintage porno.
the old timey. It's not technically technically speaking they're called stag films actually, but like
oh,
it
because
just,
you showed them at a stag and
they
drag.
just keep coming back to them every time. Like it pops back to Ted and he's laughing, and there's whoever else may be in the room, maybe not. And it shows you whatever he's seeing on the screen, and it keeps doing it. It just keeps happening.
Yeah. I don't know. This movie still sits in like a happy part of my heart because unlike Emma, I love the Jason ending segment. I wish Emma was here to hear about that or to weigh
You mean
in.
like Tommy
I would
in
love to know-
disguise and all that?
No, I mean the ending circuit where Jason's just like, let's moita.
Oh yeah,
It's time to go.
yeah. Because I do.
I
like that.
love that ending circuit because there's the moment where Jason throws Rob through the window.
In through the window, yeah.
And they're like, "Oh my god, it's Rob." But Jason doesn't come through the window.
Yeah.
Jason makes the door explode as he walks through it and enters the room.
And fun fact, that's when he just kind of like bursts in and grabs Tommy, right?
Maybe.
Fun fact about that. It's after Rob gets thrown in through the window. So yeah.
Yeah.
So This is some trivia that I didn't want to get into without Emma here actually. So Ted White, who played Jason in this one, really didn't get along well with Corey Feldman.
Oh,
He called him, quote, the meanest goddamn little kid, end quote, that he had ever worked with. And it's if you listen to Corey Feldman's side of the story, he wasn't getting treated great by the director either. It doesn't seem, from all accounts, it seems like nobody was getting treated well by the director. It seems like the director, Joe Zito, is kind of a piece of shit from the way that he treats actors. And Ted White actually took massive issue with that and had a fairly combative relationship with him on set because of it. Good guy Ted White. So when that scene came up, he kind of took it as his opportunity to get back at him a little bit, to kind of try and scare him a little bit. So when the cue hit, he waited just a little bit longer so that Feldman would let his guard down, thinking that like the stunt had just failed or something and that they would do another take and then it would happen. And then he explodes through the door and he grabs him. So that reaction of like shock, the face that he makes, the way that he yells, that's largely genuine actually, because he was legitimately a little surprised by it.
I love that. That's great.
Right. Also, I might as well just get into a couple of fun facts about Ted White, because this is a man with a pretty interesting career. He was a stuntman for a long time after getting out of the Marine Corps, and
I was about to say, this is Marine Corps Jason, right?
yeah, this is Marine Corps Jason, but the fact that he was in the Marine Corps is kind of like not all that important, because he actually had an incredibly notable stuntman career. He doubled for John Wayne and Clark Gable, among other notable actors.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Yeah. He was, at the time of being Jason, at the time of making this movie, he was 58 years old.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck? How you gonna be 58 years old and you're out being Jason? That's insane. It's crazy talk. On top of that, hilariously, he is almost an entire year older than Betsy Palmer, who played Pam Voorhees. She's supposed to be his mom.
That's so
That's just-
funny.
That's just funny.
Right? Yeah, I'm kind of in awe of the fact that he was able to be so convincingly physical and shit at the age of 58. Like, I feel like 58 for a stuntman is old, right? You'd think he would have.
58 for a stuntman feels a little old, but also
I always
like,
think of being a stuntman as like such a young man's game, you know? You got to be able to let your body get the shit beat out of it. And at 58,
well, I guess it depends
it's
on how
like,
good a stuntman you are.
I you know what? That is a really good point. It could be that Ted White was just a really, really good stuntman. He only just
because,
died like
and
last
this is-
year too, at the age of 96.
I don't want to be rude to Kane Hodder. We all love Kane Hodder.
Nothing but respect
Do we?
for my king, Kane
I hate
Hodder.
Kane
What?
Hodder.
No.
You don't even know Kane
Oh.
Hodder, Emma. You haven't seen his Jason movies yet. You'll love him.
I hope. God.
I will. Do you legitimately think that I will?
I think you will like hearing about what he commits to as an actor.
Being Jason.
However,
mainly.
what I was about to say though is, with all respect to Kane Hodder, the man didn't know where to draw the line.
Mm.
You know, he's one of those guys who is the epitome of give his entire body and soul to the work he's doing,
Yeah.
to his own physical detriment.
That's very true. Yeah.
And you get some great shots, like the
burn.
like when he fell down the flame or the stairs while he was on fire, and then they didn't cut because he didn't make the cut sign,
And he just got
he
back up.
climbed back up the stairs and was on fire the whole time and suffered permanent scarring and everything for it. Like,
King shit, honestly.
insane
It's crazy.
acting. However, that is the mark of a guy who is a great stunt guy, but not a guy that cares about himself. And that's why I would say that this dude maybe is a better stunt performer.
He also, just another thing about Kane Hodder, though, and the main reason that I love him is he was known on Friday the 13th movie sets for arguing with directors when told to do something, frequently saying things like, Jason wouldn't do that.
Jason, the
Look.
man who's never spoken a single line of dialogue other than going,
But Kane
Jason,
maybe.
a man whose
does.
physical prowess varies wildly from movie to movie. Man who falls off chairs, but also can rip a box,
God,
an
I
electrical
do-
box out of a wall.
Yeah.
I do love him falling off the chair. That's such a humanizing
Falling off the
moment
chair
for
in
I
that
miss
second
little-
one was great. Yeah.
I miss my clumsy boy.
Clumsy Jason
I
was
do.
so
Because he had a
bag
fun.
head.
I
You
liked
couldn't
him
see.
a lot.
I mean, I trust Kane because I heard he really like method acted and went camping in the woods at like a lake and killed a
He
bunch
really
of
did
teenagers.
murder those teenagers, yeah.
To really get in Jason's
Mhm.
head. And so I feel like he would know best out of anybody how to accurately portray our baby boy.
Yeah, I
Jason.
actually did hear that at one point while he was camping in the woods for Jason research, he was like at the same, in the same area of the woods that Viggo Mortensen was camping in for Lord of the Rings, and they just like hung out together for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
shared
heard
a
that
they
too.
shared a roadkill deer.
Yeah, that was on
Yeah,
the set of
yeah.
And
Jason
they made
Takes New
passionate
Zealand.
love.
Jason Takes New Zealand is one of my favorite Friday movies.
I'd actually
Yeah.
watch the shit out of that. Jason wouldn't get very far. I feel like the Kiwis would shut him down.
I just love the idea of Jason entering
Trying to attack me with a
into
machete. That's not
what
very
we do
cool.
in the shadows, and they're just like, "There's a new man in town, and he could be quite nice if we
What's
don't know."
that accent?
I don't know, man. It's a doofy ass voice. I'm my Taika Waititi's not very good.
Jeff just did an incredible
was
Taika
Taika?
Waititi.
Hey.
Jeff did a really good one, and you talked over it.
I was doing my bit. It's not my fault Jeff didn't hear me.
I did hear you, and your accent sucked, frankly.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like Swedish. I don't know what that was.
I'm just. It doesn't fucking
I
matter.
thought you were going for like a Nandor voice.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I probably confused Nandor's voice with the voice Taika put on. So
Nandor and Viago at least start out
They
like
start
similar
out as pretty similar
characters,
characters, yeah.
but Nandor has evolved away from Viago in a big way.
Oh, majorly.
anyway, I just love the idea of Jason being in What We Do in the Shadows because
That'd be awesome, yeah.
spoiler alert, as a zombie, he does fit into their canon.
Yeah, he does.
So
actually.
true, he does. And I
Except for the Deadite theory, in which case he does not fit into their canon.
wait, is there a theory that he's a Deadite?
It comes from the comics, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so
In the comics,
there's
he's a
Friday
Deadite.
the 13th comics, which are about Jason, and there's also Evil Dead comics. And in the Evil Dead comics, it is established actually that the Marvel zombies in the Marvel comics come from the Evil Dead universe. And also, according to the Evil Dead comics, Jason is a Deadite, and that's why he is undead in the later parts of the series.
Oh, okay, I'll buy it.
Yeah,
Marvel zombies are kind of just
I don't know anything about him, so...
entities.
Mm.
Well, there's a version of Deadpool that's just a head named Headpool, and I think that's really all you need.
Okay, you don't need to have a zombie
I was gonna
for
try
that
and make
to
an
exist.
undead pool joke, but if we're already there, then okay.
It's Deadpool. You can't make a joke
No,
that,
you can't.
that hasn't already
Undeadpool
been
is
made.
just Deadpool without cancer, and he's vibing as an accountant or something.
Good for him.
He's like, no, I understand the confusion. I'm not a zombie at all, actually. I'm just an accountant.
I'm imagining
It's
he's
because of the other guy's name.
dresses and acts just like regular Deadpool. It's just that he's an accountant.
Yeah, he also has like a suit over, like
Okay.
a
Over
button-up
the-
shirt
over
over,
the
top
suit.
of the
Yeah.
suit.
You can tell when a movie is just captivating when we start talking about What We Do in the Shadows and Deadpool.
Okay,
The
well,
movie's full of
it-
bullshit, and so are we. So in a way,
Jason, okay. So like Freddy versus Jason was supposed to be Freddy v Jason v Pinhead.
that's true.
And Ash was a connecting point in there as well. And that's also from the comics, is where like the idea of the crossover even began to exist. So it's kind of connected, actually.
So anyways,
I love crossovers.
back to Ted White as Jason.
Your
He's-
love, Freddy v Jason.
I don't think I love it.
So another fun thing about, less fun actually, about Ted White as Jason. He is uncredited in this movie. If you watch the credits, he's never mentioned. This
Oh.
is because Ted White
sucks.
did not want to be in this movie, so he is not credited by his own request. He said, please don't put my name on this because I don't want to be connected to it. And since he was saying this directly to Joe Zito, the director, I assume he also said, I don't want to be connected to you, because he hated that guy. Because that guy, once again, sounds like he sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned before, Ted White took massive issue with the way that Joe Zito treated actors on set. Notably, most notably, the way that he made an actress get fucking hypothermia in the raft stabbing scene. Because it was real cold
damn.
out there,
Oh.
and she was naked. And he wouldn't let her get out of the water and get warmed up and shit in between takes for way too long. And it got all the way to the point where Ted White basically told him, I'm quitting this fucking stupid production immediately and walking right off now if you don't let her go warm up immediately. So they finally did. It was already a little bit too late because she already had fucking hypothermia, which is goddamn ridiculous. So fuck Joe Zito.
Joe Zito also made 2 Chuck Norris movies.
Indeed,
Oh my
he
God.
did. So that tells us most of what we need to know about this dude, right? He almost made
Well, good. Good for Ted White, I guess.
he almost made a Spider-Man movie long before Sam Raimi ever got the chance. There was you can find information about this really fortunately ill-fated Spider-Man adaptation that Canon Films almost made, wherein Spider-Man was not the Spider-Man that you know from the comics. He was more like a werewolf but a spider, and Doc Ock was called Professor Octopus. And his catchphrase
That-
was saying
what?
"okie dokie" all the time. Professor Octopus.
Are you?
He's
You're
mean.
not joking. This is
I
serious.
am not joking. This is a movie that actually almost got made. And this is one of the dudes who was attached to direct it.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I actually have nothing to say to that. That's obscene.
Right? It's very, very bad.
And Professor Octopus was gonna be played by Nick Cage.
That might have saved it.
Oh,
That might have saved it, actually, you know? Because I'm imagining Nick Cage saying okie dokie, and I think it works.
oh, yeah. No, I definitely think that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
Are
you
you
know,
kidding me?
like-
Hell yeah.
Okie dokie.
I've changed my mind. Yeah, I'd watch the
Changed
shit
my
out of that.
mind. I would be laughing at it.
This
It
is
wouldn't be
my
good,
Zack
but I'd
Snyder's-
watch it
this-
anyway.
This is my Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I'm not willing to go that far.
Yeah, let's see. I think I might have blown most of my trivia at this point. And once again, this movie is so largely full of bullshit that there's really just not even that much to talk about. So, what's everybody's favorite kills?
Yeah.
I think mine is the one
I don't
twin
even-
getting thrown out the window and hitting the car because I like the way that like the windows blow out and stuff. It's a cool set of scenes, set of shots.
That is fun.
Axel's
Axel's pretty good.
The bonesaw kill is nice. He like cuts his throat with the saw and then turns his head all the way around. It's rad.
It digs in pretty good. I wish we got to see more of it.
The Savini edition.
Yeah.
I want the Savini cut, damn
okay.
it.
So I don't like the kills in this movie very
No?
much. This is my hot take.
Aw.
I think a lot of them are stabbing through material or like cutting someone's throat from behind or throwing them out a window. Like it all seems very standard slasher stuff. I think my favorite's the groin harpoon because
Okay, that's really good.
It's a
the
good
groin
choice.
harpoon is this easy standout because apart that one and then obviously the thrown out the window landing on a car thing is fun. But it's still
It's
like
not
we
super
see the thrown out the
remarkable.
window thing twice more after that,
Yeah.
so it loses its sparkle for me.
Sure.
But and then everything else is pretty much standard basic. We've seen this kind of kill before. It's cool looking, but it's not like anything. I think part of the problem is we watched Lost Boys and those kills
Oh.
are off the chain.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely off the shits. You're gonna love it whenever you watch
Just
it.
as a side note, though,
so-
I think Groin Harpoon could be a cool band name.
Yeah, absolutely, but it does just sound like slang for a dick.
Yeah,
Yeah. True.
and
Okay, you got me there.
feature, not a bug.
Sup, babe? I got my groin harpoon ready to go.
Anyway.
It's more like a groin squirt gun, honestly.
Sometimes Emma will tell a joke and then they'll sit there straight faced after they say it. And it makes it worse because I feel like I've just been like shot by someone who doesn't know that guns kill people. That's
What a take.
That's such a specific feeling to have.
well, that's how it feels.
Guns don't kill people. My jokes do.
Anyway, what are other people's favorite kills in this movie?
I like the dog suicide because The way that the glass shatters and explodes out is really cool.
Yeah.
The dog is also a good dog, and I don't believe that the actual dog got hurt based on... That's like one of my things, is whenever the dog is clearly having a good time.
And this dog
Yeah.
is
This dog's
very
tail
clearly...
is wagging.
Yeah, in the dog suicide scene, as the dog is jumping out the window, it's like, it's not even like a big jump. It's like...
It just,
the way
the
that
dog
a
looks
jaw-
so focused on the fact that he is doing his job. And
and he looks like he's getting
appreciate
ready to
him.
land on something, right? It's the kind of
Yeah.
jump that you might expect from a dog who's hopping down like off of a porch, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Not out a window.
He was
Yeah.
training for Air Bud.
Oh, maybe he was.
yeah.
Was this
Yeah.
the same
He,
dog? I
he
don't
did
know.
a great job.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna try and find this dog on IMDb. Give me a minute. You guys keep talking.
I'm ready for Noah's notes whenever y'all are.
Oh, God,
I am
already?
also ready for Noah's
We've
Notes.
had
you know
a
what, fair, I
rash
guess.
of long episodes, and now we're hitting a movie that simply cannot support one.
It's
Much
kind
like
of-
Friday
This
the
is
13th,
honestly-
we are padding this episode.
This is honestly still, I mean, for a year ago, this would still be a longer episode.
Oh, that's true, actually. We were keeping it at a tight hour and a half for a while.
Yeah.
Sad days those were. Okay, let's do
We didn't
this.
let ourselves
Once
bullshit
again-
enough.
I would love to remind everyone that this came out 5 years after Alien.
Yeah, that was something that I kept thinking
Yeah.
about as we watched this movie. That and then The Lost Boys, because I think those are two movies that it's kind of a shame that we watched before this one. Oh, Noah.
Half a second.
That's not how you spell famous.
Shut up.
Just-
Let's see. Elm Street came out this year. Children of the Corn came out this year. Top picks for me. No, I just Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So the first Indiana Jones had already come out. Oh, it's profiling me right now. It's like because you watched Friday the 13th final chapter. It's telling me about the Toxic Avenger, but I just want to know good movies that came out.
Oh, there's a new Toxic Avenger movie coming out, isn't there?
I
Or
am
being worked on?
I am tentatively excited, but Toxic Avenger sure is a movie.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters came out this year.
Oh, wow. Back to the Future as well, right? Because 84, that's...
Gremlins came
a
out this
lot of
year.
shit came out in 84.
You know, I feel like it is really important just
Context.
every now and then to, because we talk about movies being older sometimes, and sometimes you can like lose a little bit of context.
Sure.
Like Alien and coming out in like 79, sure, that's very early for movies.
For
right?
something
so
of that
there's a lot of
nature.
stuff that you might not have heard about. But then every now and then I feel like we do need to be reminded that in 1984 The Terminator came out,
Yeah.
which is a good to look at movie, a well-written movie, a well-paced movie.
Since I used it as my frame of reference last time that we talked about when a movie came out, the James Bond movies that came out around this time. 1983 was Octopussy, which is a movie that I've seen.
That feels like a movie
Oh.
from the 60s, which is
God.
No.
shocking.
Okay,
Oh,
but
no.
1985 was my favorite Bond movie, View to a Kill, with Christopher Walken and Grace
I
Jones.
find a computer indispensable.
So,
Actually, could you put some respect on its name? It's Professor Octopussy.
So true.
Okie dokie.
okie dokie. Oh no! This is gonna
Yeah,
go
what else?
right next to
what?
Epic Bad Luck
John
on
Carpenter's
my
The
stupid
Thing
quotes
had been
list.
out for
Bad
2 years
luck.
by the time this came out as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's-
Still haven't watched that.
Ooh,
This
we
is-
gotta
it's
cover
really
it
good.
sometime.
I am
Okay, so
afraid
I-
you won't like it, but
Terrified.
it is really good.
I think that that's also important to note because we've been talking about movies that have come out recently too. And sometimes I'll go see a bad movie and I'll remember that. And while we were watching Friday the 14th,
Right.
I really want to call it that for like no reason.
Friday the 13th 4. I was watching it and thinking to myself, because there are actors I'm starting to recognize in this one, right?
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover. I started thinking to myself, like, oh, my mom could have seen this one in theaters if she had been into horror movies. And then a couple years later, she could have gone and seen Lost Boys. And then I realized, like, oh, there are bad movies and good movies in the past that people would have walked out of the theaters and been like, that kind of sucked, you know, comparatively to walking out of a movie and being like, that was a fucking masterpiece. And I think sometimes I forget that like so many movies came out when I was in college. Like Split and Annihilation came out not too far apart from each other, and Annihilation is amazing and Split is Split. And The Visit, you know, sometimes I just forget that good movies and bad movies can come out the same year. And so even though we can talk about like, because being old does affect movies and they're like how we view them.
Oh, sure.
But like in the grand scheme of things, I don't feel like this movie was a great movie for the year it came out.
On that note, like literally 2 days ago got a like on one of my old Letterboxd reviews from June, and it was when we watched Van Helsing. And the review that it literally is just, sometimes you forget there was a whole era where movies just sucked ass.
Yeah.
And
It was called the 2000s.
It's partially because of the writer's strike.
mm-hmm.
But there is a charm to 2000 suck. What was it that I watched recently that I was like, wow, this feels... Oh, I know what it was. I can't talk about it, actually.
Oh, bummer.
I was like, it was a movie.
Speaking of the writer's strike.
Right?
I think I can guess.
Yeah.
It's the Barbie movie.
Yeah, fuck that.
The Barbie movie. Anyway, Noah's notes. Noah says, whose hands are like so big? Jason's?
Yeah.
Oh, he got
Okay.
big hands
Noah-
in this, yeah.
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
got-
his giant hands fall out super close to the camera out of like the gurney where he's covered up like
Mhm.
so many times.
I am choosing to believe
Noah's-
that that's Jason just like putting his hands out of the gurney to be annoying.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, that definitely seems like he's...
He's in Bummerland right now. He's really sad that he died.
He's
just
coming
like,
off of a
I
massive
don't even
L.
feel like keeping my hand here.
Yeah, he is. Noah says, in rapid succession, boobs. Then, bet they're gonna bitch out on dong. Then, they did.
Yep.
Sad.
No dong. It's
Yeah.
been a while since we had
They
dong
always
on this
do.
show.
Noah's...
Seven had dong.
Seven had
Seven
a little
did
have
dong,
dong.
yeah.
Oh,
It was a
I
big
forgot
briefly,
a
though.
goal that we could have gabbed, Noah. We're only about halfway through. We're halfway through playing Outlast.
Oh,
Oh,
there's dong in that. Hey.
speaking of dongs.
There's
Outlast
so much
has
dong.
dong, Yeah.
Flop, 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 flop,
Yeah.
flop,
There's
flop.
a good amount
That's
of
the
dong
only
in
thing I know
Outlast.
about it,
But
actually.
we're about halfway through. We're having fun.
Nice.
I thought you were about to bring up Saw because we've been watching through the Saw franchise.
we have, but I don't want to
and
talk
there were
about
there's no
Yeah.
dong in Saw.
them. No.
There's
There's-
barely
Dang.
boobs.
There's a bit of
but there
boob.
were
Anyway,
some.
Noah's notes. Noah says, "Some pack of patootsies, huh? What the fuck does that mean,
No,
Tommy
what is
Jarvis?"
that? What's he talking about?
Just like talking to his sister. So your naked friends are pretty naked.
Well, and like the way that she
That's weird,
reacts
man.
suggests that she knows what the word patootsies is supposed to refer to.
I mean, I can infer, but like,
One thing I gotta say about Trish is she handles the stumbling onto the skinny dipping scene very well. Like they're all like, "Hey, Trish," and she's like, I'm overdressed.
That's a
See you
funny
guys
line.
later."
Yeah.
She kills it. Noah just has a movie quote in here that's pretty good, which is, "What's your problem? No problem. No, like with the car. Oh, well, it won't start."
Yeah. Tell you what, for how dumb a lot of the dialogue in this movie is, there are a handful of lines that I really, really like.
Noah says, "Dick Poon. Is this anything?"
Dick
Uh,
Poon?
Like
feel like
harpooned in the dick.
There's
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
what about
it's
like
nothing, Noah.
what if you were to go for something more
crowd
like
tested.
harpeen? Maybe?
Great. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jeff. Got it in one. Let's move on. Noah says, "God, I have 0 notes. Nothing happens in this movie."
Yeah, that's kind of true.
there's like just not a lot to riff
No,
on, you know?
no,
Like
once again, the movie's
some of my
just
notes
full
Oh,
of-
I
here's a
write
good
down.
note. Noah says, "This shower sounds so wet, but like in a haunted basement way." Yeah, what's with the dripping
Ooh.
sound effects in the shower
yeah,
scene?
it sounds
literally-
like the
so there
wrong
was
kind of
a-
wet, yeah.
There was a moment when we were watching Goblin last night Claudio Simonetti's Goblin.
That's right.
And there was like a dripping sound to intro and outro a song.
Yeah.
And I lean over to Nina and I'm like, oh my God, just like in Friday 4.
Anyway, Noah says, oh my God, I forgot that. And he says, what's her name in parentheses? He's talking about Sarah. He says, oh my God, I forgot that what's her name wasn't our fated final girl. Probably because she's now no longer a virgin.
Ah, yeah.
And then he... and then he says, slut.
Yeah, Nina's out here butchering the delivery.
No, I'm sorry. I couldn't roll right into it. I was gonna laugh. Yeah, no, she has sex one time and then she gets killed for
Hey,
it.
Jason says no sex, no drugs, no alcohol.
She's like agonizing
It's a very
over it for the
firm
whole rest
rule.
of the movie leading up to it as well.
Yeah. Noah says, Noah quotes me here. I said during the movie that if you had told me someone else was going to go out a window, I would not have guessed it would have been the dog.
Yeah.
The dog was not on my list of characters that are going to go out a window. Noah says, man, the first half was okay, the middle blew, and the end goes so fucking hard. We already know what our general opinions
That's
are on
a
that.
third, not a half.
I can't read from this distance,
Uh-huh.
Noah.
Nina can't read.
Wow.
LLL.
Oh man. Most illiterate
Noah
member
says-
of the podcast over here.
Good thing I don't have to do it professionally. Noah says, wish anything Tommy was doing made any sense right now.
Or ever. It doesn't even matter at what point in the movie you wrote that note because it works no matter what.
I think we have a theme as well. I don't know about Nightmare, but for Friday and for Halloween, we have a theme this year. Noah says Tommy killed Jason, so that means he's the new Jason, obviously.
I have always heard
Yeah.
that's how that works, yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
He became Jason by
Anyway,
killing the previous Jason.
Yeah, it's because if he's a Deadite, then I guess that makes sense.
That's
And that's
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, part 4, the final chapter. The final
The last
Friday. Not the final Friday. That's a different
We're done.
one, I think.
We don't have to watch
It's the
anymore.
last one.
Yeah, how's it feel,
They never
Emma?
made another.
You never have to
It
watch
feels
another
so
Friday the
good.
13th.
It feels so good that I don't have to watch
Except that they
anymore.
remade it in 2009. We got to watch that next year.
Okay, but how funny would it be if we skipped past Friday part 5, New Beginnings, and just did the fucking reboot that made Michael Bay walk out of the theater saying this is the most disgusting trash I've ever seen.
Michael
Michael
Bay.
Bay. He was on that movie. as
Michael
a
Yeah.
Bay
producer.
walked out in disgust.
Director of
That's
Transformers.
right. The very
Yeah.
same.
And
He-
Ambulance, hit movie, blockbuster Ambulance.
Be nice to Twitter
He hated
Brandon.
Friday
I'm
the
never
13th,
gonna be nice to him
2009
about
so
that.
much.
Because yeah, he helped fund the
He's like an executive
Texas
producer on it or
Chainsaw
some
reboot.
shit.
Yeah, he was executive producer on a lot of horror reboots,
and they all
he was
sucked.
so mad at the Friday the 13th one.
See, here's the thing about Friday the 13th,
which is wild
2009.
because objectively it's fine.
See, okay, here's the thing about it. I never watched the whole thing. I never finished it because I hated it so much, but the first half hour of it,
okay, Michael Bay.
the first half hour of it is a perfect Friday the 13th short. Like everything up
And then
to
Jared
the,
Padalecki comes
everything
in.
up to the title drop, the first half hour before the title drop there. Yeah, everything before Padalecki shows up, basically, yeah, is like a perfect Friday the 13th movie.
Also, this was Jared Padalecki at like peak supernatural fame.
Oh, is that when that was? Nice.
No, maybe not peak, but as he was hitting the supernatural stride.
Right, he was very firmly
They pull
the
him into this,
supernatural guy.
and they pull Jensen Ackles into the god awful My Bloody Valentine reboot.
Yeah, also called Jason Goes to Canada by me.
Yes.
That's what the original feels like. to
Anyway,
me.
I've been
Anyway.
Noah. You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD. I'm on Blueski, Insta.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it right now.
Aw.
Let's be real.
And Letterboxd.
And Letterboxd.
So you can you
You're
too
welcome.
can like Noah's review of Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
movies suck ass, and that's okay.
We're doing Nightmare next, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I
Because
thought
we
it was
gotta
Halloween.
get a certain someone to Halloween. No, we gotta get someone special for Halloween.
okay.
Michael Myers.
Himself.
Yeah, Michael
in the
Myers.
studio.
You good?
I have a tickle.
Oh no.
I've been coughing like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I noticed.
Nina only cares now.
Wow.
Anyway,
Jeff edited the coughs out masterfully, but now Nina brought it up.
He was coughing the whole
It's
time.
good anyway.
And I cleaned it up so well.
anyway, I'm Nina. You can find me at Nina Wolverina on Twitter still. I'm there till it dies. On Instagram and on Blue Sky. I write books and do art. You can find all of that on on any platform that you can find me on at Nina Wolverina. My card in my bio has links to my books, including a horror romance novella that I wrote in September that is releasing chapter by chapter, Mondays and Wednesdays for the next month and a half or so until all the chapters are out.
And it's really
there are
good
2
so
endings,
far.
and thank
Two
you.
endings.
There are 2 endings, and I need readers to vote on which ending they want to be the canon print edition ending. So if you read it while it's releasing and you vote on it, you can be part of why half of my readership hates me. Thank you so much for listening. We also have here with us Jeff.
And you can find me on
Why did I say it like that?
Shit, where's the place that I still am? Tumblr on what is it you pray for?
I'm there too.
Noah's also there. And allegedly I am also on Letterboxd at The Fakest Fan.
And I'm Emma, also known as Emma Panada. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Emma Panada. I'm also writing a TTRPG called All the Witches. You can find information about that at allthewitches_ on Twitter.com and at bluesky.com at allthewitches.
Woo!
Thanks so much for hanging out with us, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Next time for Nightmare. Goodbye.